Now coming to the topic, that is electoral bonds. But before moving further, we need to have a general idea or the context in which electoral bonds were introduced. So let's move forward. Now we know there are various political parties in the country, and since they are not engaged in any economic activity, they require donations. Donations from the people or the corporates. Now the donations could be made in any form. It could be made in the form of cash, check, bank transfer, demand draft, whatever way the money could be transferred from the people to the political parties. But the main concern was when the donations were made in cash, because the cash do not have any paper trail. It is very difficult to identify the source. And more specifically, in the case of cash transactions, when the people donated money in the form of cash, the concern was when the money was less than 20,000 rupees. The basic concern was when the money was more than 20,000 rupees, then the political parties had to inform the Election Commission of India. But when the donations were less than 20,000 rupees, there was no such requirement of disclosure. So in that case, many political parties took advantage of this. So most of the political parties would say that majority of their funds, not even majority, more than 80% of their funds is coming from transactions less than 20,000 rupees. So cash less than 20,000 rupees. So this was a matter of concern, as the political parties in that case did not have to reveal to the Election Commission of India the source of their money. So in that case, to address this flaw, the government, this Modi government, in the year 2017, they introduced electoral bonds via a finance bill. So let's see what it is. So now a new system was introduced known as electoral bonds. In this, the people were required to buy electoral bonds from the bank, and this bank is State Bank of India, and only certain branches of State Bank of India can supply electoral bonds. So the people had to buy electoral bonds from the bank, and then they could deposit these electoral bonds with their political party of their liking. Now these electoral bonds could be in the denomination of rupees 1,000, 10,000, 1 lakh and 1 crore rupees only. So if one was to buy electoral bonds of rupees 500, this is not possible. It has to be in the multiples of 1,000, 10,000, 1 lakh and 1 crore only. Now with respect to electoral bonds, there are some key points. One, the electoral bonds are tax deductible. That is, if a person buys electoral bonds, so that much portion of his income will not be eligible for income tax. Income tax, and in case of companies, corporate tax. Also, the electoral bonds which the donation has been made to the political parties will not have the name of the donor. So it is in the anonymous form. So there is non-disclosure of the person who is donating this money to the political party, and also in the case of companies. And not all political parties will be eligible for electoral bonds. So who will decide which party is eligible for electoral bonds and what will be the condition? Well, Election Commission of India decides, and this is done on the condition that a particular political party has secured at least 1% of total votes polled in a general election or assembly election. So general election means elections to the Lok Sabha or elections to the state legislative assembly. Now let us see the definition of electoral bonds. Electoral bond is like a promissory note that can be bought by any Indian citizen or company incorporated in India from select branches of State Bank of India only. Clear? So not all banks of the country can give electoral bonds, but only State Bank of India and only select branches. Very important for your prelims. So after getting this bond, the citizen or the corporate can then donate the same to any eligible political party of his or her choice. Now these bonds are similar to bank notes that are payable to the bearer on demand and are free of interest. An individual or party will be allowed to purchase these bonds digitally or through check. Now please remember, these are free of interest. That is, when one buys the electoral bonds, these are not like your financial instruments where you buy a bond and you are getting interest on it. When one buys electoral bond, the purpose is very clear: to make a donation to the political party, and therefore there is no interest on it. Very important. Now coming to the positives of the electoral bonds. First, it's the claim of the government, basically all of them. They say donations made to a political party would be reflected in the balance sheets of that company without exposing the details to the public. Why? Because the company, let's say ABC, there is a company known as ABC and it is buying electoral bonds. So when they are buying and selling is taking place, it will show in the balance sheet. But since the name of the donor is not given, it will not expose as to which political party was given donations. So this is particularly helpful in the case where there is a possibility that rival political parties or the parties which were not given funding would harass the body corporate. So this electoral bonds tries to avoid this situation. And then naturally electoral bonds were introduced to disincentivize donations in cash. And since it is able to disincentivize donations in cash, it is able to check the issue of black money in elections. And it is claimed that political parties would now not know the name of the donor. So they don't know which company has given them money. Therefore, it is possible that these political parties would remain neutral. So they will not make any policies which are favorable to the group which has given them donation. So this is a very important point over here when we talk about the positives of electoral bonds. Now coming to the concerns of electoral bonds. Firstly, it is quite paradoxical. First, the government says that the scheme was introduced to promote transparency, and then it says that the name of the donor will not be revealed. So it is quite contrary on the part of the government. So it is not in the spirit of transparency. Then remember, I told you that companies, when they donate using the electoral bonds, their name will not be revealed. You know which political party is the beneficiary, that will not be revealed. But the shareholders, who are also the co-owners or the investors into the company, must know which political party has been given funds. So this transparency must be there. Then we also said that the political party shall not know the name of the donor. But consider this, especially with reference to the ruling party. Now consider this over here. The State Bank of India is the institution which controls the electoral bonds. It is the government bank, that is, it is owned by the government. Government is responsible for the important appointments into the State Bank of India. Thereby, it can put pressure on the State Bank of India to get the names of the donors. So it can know which political parties have got donations, be it ruling party or it could be opposition party, and thereby put greater pressure on the body corporate. So it is quite a negative when we see the electoral bond scheme. Then, since it is very non-transparent in its nature, there is a concern of influx of black money, money laundering, especially by means of fake companies, also known as shell companies. There is also a concern of crony capitalism. Crony capitalism means a company which has lot of influence in the government and they can have favorable policies. Now you can imagine over here, this company has given donation to the political party. Naturally, the party is obligated to this towards this company. So they may make certain policies which are favorable to the company. So this is crony capitalism over here. In India's case, it is very important that we have greater transparency, given the fact that 95% of the funding to the political parties are coming from the corporates, while they form a very small vote base. So the majority of the voters, even though the political parties would go to the people for the votes, but they are interested in the funds which are coming from the body corporates. So this is very important over here. So there is a concern of crony capitalism which needs to be addressed. And the easiest way of addressing is by having greater transparency. Then most recently, the Supreme Court itself has raised concerns about misuse of funds. So they ask the government as to what mechanism do you have for, having greater accountability on the political parties with reference to the funds that are coming. So this was again with reference to the transparency. They believe that it could be used for violent activities, violent protests against seditious activities, etc., or buying and selling of MPs as well as MLAs. So these were all concerns about the electoral bonds. Now you may consider the news clipping over here. So this was the judgment that I was talking about, and these views are no other than the person Chief Justice of India, S.A. Bobde. Now, when we're talking about the concerns, what is more alarming is the restrictions that have been done away with. So electoral bonds were introduced, and further some restrictions on the companies with reference to the donations itself were eased. So some of them are: earlier, no foreign company could donate to any political party. But now foreign companies can also donate to political parties. So you can imagine a foreign company now, not Indian company, foreign company can influence the political parties in India. The stand they take, lobbying, etc. can be done now very easily. Then earlier, a fund could donate a maximum of 7.5% of its net profit. Only 7.5%. Now the firms can donate as much as they want. There is no limit on it. Thereby the concern of the shell companies. So companies which exist only in paper. Anybody may park money, black money into these companies, and this money can go to any political party. And this, again, when this can go to any political party, this black money has been converted into white money, as that money has come in the paper form, which is known as electoral bonds. Then, third point, as per the same section of the Act, that is Companies Act, companies had to disclose details of their political donations in their annual statement of accounts. But now there is no such need. So remember the positives over here. Donations made to a party would be accounted for in the balance sheet without exposing the donor details to the public. But it says there is no need for mentioning it in the annual finance statements. So this is again quite contrary on the part of the government. In fact, the entire political class. So the government moved an amendment in the finance bill to ensure that this provision would not be applicable to companies in case of electoral bonds. Thus, Indian, foreign and even shell companies can now donate to political parties without having to inform anyone of the contribution. So this is a matter of grave concern which needs to be addressed immediately. And many institutions, civil society like Association of Democratic Reforms, People's Unions for Civil Liberties, even the government related institutions like Election Commission of India, your Supreme Court of India, Reserve Bank of India have expressed concerns about electoral bonds. So this was all about the electoral bonds, and here is the question mains answer writing. So please do attempt it, and you always know you can share this on my Telegram channel that is mentioned in the description box. Thank you very much and all the best.